Good evening, great people of God. I welcome us to another amazing edition of School of Relationship and Marital Success. Thank God for bringing us into today, and I am sure that He has something great to communicate to us today. I am particularly excited about today's topic because it is a topic that is not as popular as it used to be, and that's because a lot of opinions has been heard or heard over this particular topic or over this particular matter or over this particular issue. And what is the issue? The question is, how can I abstain from sex before marriage? How can I abstain from sex before marriage? Now, before somebody can be asking this question, that means the person is settled that it is right to abstain from sex before marriage. It is wrong to have sex before marriage. And I completely agree with that. The Bible says in Hebrews chapter 12, 13 and verse 4, it says, let the marriage bed be honorable and undefiled. So it is God's injunction that we do not jump the gun. We do not put the cart before the horse. The meaning of that is there is a God picture of marriage, and that picture is a man and a woman coming together, having considered the fact that they're going to be living together for the rest of their lives, and if it's fine by them, then they agree, they come into a covenant of marriage, and that is what we call the solemnization. And so it could be traditional, it could be the white wedding. It is not compulsory that it has to be the white wedding. It could be traditional. It could be just a few people coming together as witness, and the husband and the wife, and then the minister that will be joining them together. It does not have to be loud. Okay, I'm already attending to some other things, all right. So at the start of marriage, we have the right to give our bodies to ourselves. Apostle Paul talks expressly about this in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, talking about the fact that a single person can go after the things of God without any limit and anything holding him or her back. But in the case of a married person, he or she has to be available for his or her spouse, and that could be a limitation to how much time you have for God. All of this could be worked out, trust me. But that's not where we're going today. So marriage is God's injunction, and God honors the covenant of marriage. Having said that, the only place where sex is permitted and God is happy when it happens is in marriage. If sex happens before marriage, it is either it is fornication. It is fornication. It could also be adultery if it's happening between a single person and a married person. To the married person, it's adultery. To the single person, it is fornication. If it is between two single people, it is fornication. If it is between two separately married people, like the husband of a wife and the wife of another husband coming together to have sex, it's adultery. Okay, so having said that, now going to the question, how can I abstain from sex before marriage? I learned some time ago that most times the reason why we might struggle with the how is because we're not clear about the why. Excuse me. Let me take that again. The reason why we struggle about the how is because we're not certain about the why. For example, if I tell someone now that I want you to stay in your house for 2 days, don't go out, don't eat, don't drink, don't take a shower, don't brush your teeth, don't talk to anyone, don't check your phone, don't do anything. Just stay in your room. And that's the instruction. The person might struggle with it. The person might say, oh, take care of my needs, How do I get what I'll eat after the 2 days and all of that, I have to go and work for the money. I have to do this, that. Excuse me. then the person might be like, it's not possible. But if I face that same person and I say, okay, so tell me the most important thing to you right now that you wish you could lay your hands upon. The person tells me what it is. Let's say the person says it's a car, a particular brand of car. And I say, okay, I'm going to give you that car. The person says, what? I say, yes, I'm going to give you that car, but on one condition. Okay, what's the condition? That you're going to stay in your room for 5 days. You're not going out, checking your phone, talking to anybody, you're not. By the time I'm done giving the conditions, what do you think the person will say? Consider it done. In fact, I can stay 1 week because there is a why. So when we're saying, how can I abstain from premarital sex? Because we know there is an injunction of God, yes. What are the reasons why I should? That's the first one that I mentioned. The first and foremost is that when you're certain about the why, then the how won't be a problem. But the first and foremost is that it is the injunction of God. God clearly stated it that marriage should be the bedrock. Marriage should be the environment where sex happens. Okay, sex is limited and restricted to marriage according to God's standards. Alright? So if you want to be a God pleaser, then you want to stick to not having sex before marriage. Number 2, marriage is the deepest, sex is the deepest covenant ever known. For every other covenant that is made, there are limitations, there are conditions and all of that. But for sex, you're taking it to a new level, you're taking it to another level. You're interacting beyond just words. It's not just about words. It's not just about materials. It's about life. It's about exchange of, body substance. Let me put it that way. A part of you goes into the person. A part of the person comes into you. Forget about the fact that you're using any form of protection or not. The truth is, your sweat gets into each other's. Your body touch each other. You sweat and the sweat mix. How about that? Or do you put a covering on your skin as well? There are means by which there is an exchange of the materials in our body, fluids in our body, and that is spiritual. You carry a part of that person in you for the rest of your life. The person carries a part of you in his or her body for the rest of his or her life. So it is the highest level of covenant. So you want to ask yourself, do I want to do this? Do I want to have a bit of this person going with me for the rest of my life? Another reason why you don't want to go into sex before marriage, or why you should not go into sex before marriage, is because it increases your chances of lifelong regrets. Okay? I like to say that in life we all make mistakes. And if you ask anybody, there is nobody on earth, and I stand to be corrected, who you will ask and say, okay, if you were to rewind the hands of time, are there things or is there anything you want to change the way you did it? You after you had done it, you realize that it wasn't the best way to do it and you want to do it in another way. Every single person on earth will have at least one thing that they wished they did differently, or that they wished they didn't do the way they did, they did differently. All right. Now, when you enter into a relationship, like we've shared in some editions earlier, there are times that you enter based on what you think you know, or even what you know, because we know in part. You might actually think that you got that. It might be that you actually got it, but it might not finally end up that you guys marry. And then if I happen to enter into a relationship with a guy or brother, and finally, because certain things could not work out, character-wise, vision-wise, um, um, in our personal relationships and in our interactions, like the Bible says in Amos chapter 3 and verse 3 that can two work together except they agree. We realize that we do not agree on certain things that are very fundamental about our coming together. You might just say, okay, we can no longer continue, and then we have to go our separate ways. Now, there are certain things for every relationship. Definitely there will be some things that you invested in that relationship, some things that you had to give to make the relationship, or some things that you had to part ways with even for the sake of the relationship. Now, if the relationship does not work, those things are gone down the drain. That's it. Now, imagine that one of the things you invested or one of the things you did to make the relationship work was sex. You're going to live with that for the rest, that regret for the rest of your life, because a part of you is going to be with that person and there's nothing you can do about it. Not to talk of the other implications, like you might, still get to meet, and sometimes it might not be very pleasant and all of that. Okay? Another reason why you must, it is pertinent to abstain from sex before marriage is that it if you cannot exercise that self control now, you are never going to be able to exercise it. Yes. If you find it difficult to hold your body, like they say, you cannot hold body now, and you feel, oh, this thing has to be done, body no be firewood. When you get married, you will still not be able to do what? To hold your body. The difference between a boy and a man is self-control. The difference between a girl and a woman is self-control. Ability to prioritize what's important, ability to delay gratification and wait. That is one of the things that shows that, okay, this person is grown, is matured. If you happen to be in a meeting and you have a toddler in that meeting, and the toddler starts to cry, I want biscuit, you must leave all that you're doing and get the biscuit, otherwise you won't enjoy the meeting. But if a grown-up man in that meeting starts to say, I want biscuit, and he starts to throw tantrums, then you know that there is a problem with that man. Everybody will start to wonder, is he okay? Is everything fine? Because it is expected that as a grown-up man, you should be able to wait. If your needs can't be met immediately, you should be able to wait. So the same way, if what you feel like having, in this case sex, cannot be waited for, then you're not a man, you're not a woman. And the truth is, sexual temptations do not stop after marriage. I just hope you know that. Single guy, single lady out there, I hope you know that the fact that you're married does not mean that you're not going to still see people who are your spec, people who feel you are their spec, and that's just the truth. So if you're unable to exercise that self-control as a single person and wait until you get married, when you get married as well, you're not going to be able to exercise that self-control, trust me. And that can be more disastrous. So you want to ask yourself, if these are the why, then if you furnish yourself with this truth, another reason why you must abstain from sex before marriage is that you are presenting a life, for every day that we live, we are writing our history. And I've been there, I've done that. The Bible says in the book of Corinthians that the comfort with which we have been comforted, we should comfort others. Now, when you go through certain things in life, the strength with which you were able to wade through, you definitely would need that testimony, that truth to encourage somebody and help somebody someday. So if you do not have the wherewithal, or if you do not get determined to ensure that you stay pure until marriage, that means that whoever comes your way later and is having this kind of challenge, you're not going to be able to encourage them appropriately unless you'll be telling a lie, because you were unable to pull through. So the grace that God gives is available for his children, but we need to receive it. to welcome it. We need to allow it to work. So how can I abstain from premarital sex? First, furnish yourself with the truths, the reasons, the whys for abstinence. The reason why you should abstain from sex before marriage. Another important reason why you should abstain from sex before marriage is that when you do not, how do I say this now? When you do not gather, when you are inexperienced in something, you can learn, right? But when you are over-experienced in something, particularly when it does not really have so much importance to your life, you might find it difficult to interact with people who are inexperienced. Let me bring it down. When you marry as a virgin, your level of understanding of sexual escapades, or let me say sexual experience, will definitely be limited because you have not tried here and there and there and there with different people. And you will definitely with instruction from your pastor, from your pastor's wife, from trusted married friends around you, you learn on the job, and together you're learning and you get better. You don't get to that point where you compare yourself, your spouse, your partner with this person or that person who you have had to sleep with before you got married. But soon when you have had several sexual experiences, you will find it difficult to stick to this person. You will have reasons to compare this person now, who happens to be your husband or your wife, with these other people. And chances are high that you're likely not to be satisfied. Another reason why you should abstain from premarital sex is the chance of contacting sexually transmitted diseases. There are times that these sexually transmitted diseases do not surface. They do not show themselves unless maybe you happen to be running through maybe a program that requires you carrying out certain medical tests or something, and it could even be more tragic. It could be more challenging. It could have very serious implications depending on what it could be. Because sometimes when you think you're exploring or you want to just enjoy life, the devil is not looking, he's not going to just sit still and watch a child of God think he's smart or think he can juggle between grace and sin. No. And so it is important that you know that the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and wickedness in high places. So you must know that life itself is spiritual. And when you trivialize matters of life, you're not being wise. So to think that you can sleep around and ask forgiveness, maybe that's what you think. Yes, you might actually think that, okay, I'm going to ask God forgiveness, yes, and you might be lucky, you might find favor, and you might get that forgiveness. But what are the implications? Our decisions in life is like a stick, like this pen now. This side of the pen is my action, while this side of the pen is the consequence. It is impossible for you to take the action and leave the consequence. It's not possible. It is impossible for you to take the consequence and leave the action. They go together. So it's either I'm taking the two or I'm dropping the two. That's the way it is. So in life, when you make decisions to do something or to take a particular step, whether good or bad, it might not be pleasant all the time. That's the truth. But the truth is, whether pleasant or not, you take the action and the consequence together. So sleeping around or having sex before marriage is an action that will surely come with consequence or consequences. And the seemingly unfair part of it, because it looks unfair, is that more often than not, once you pick the action, you cannot drop the consequence. And you cannot even decide. Because it is a dual decision in one. Once you make up your mind as regards the action, the consequence goes with you automatically. So, when you look at all of these reasons that I've shared with you why you should abstain from sex, It will empower you to now decide. Excuse me. The Bible said that Joshua said to the children of Israel, I've set before you life and death this day. Choose therefore life. He was advising them. He was suggesting to them, but he could never have made that decision for them. The same way, the decision to either have sex before marriage or not is yours. I can't make that decision for you. You are the only one that can make that decision. But remember that when you make that decision, you have consequences that come with it. And those consequences can be more um, negative than you can imagine. The implications might go farther than you thought. And by then, you will not be able to choose what consequences you want to have access to or not. So first, how do I abstain from sex? Number one, discuss with your partner from the beginning. Okay, so we're entering into this relationship. What is your stand on sex before marriage? Don't forget, you cannot go together if you're not going to the same place. Amos 3:3, the Message translation. So if he's going towards the sex room and you are saying you're not going towards the sex room, somebody has to go the other way sometime soon. And more often than not, when someone is up and someone is down, and you're trying to pull the person down, and the person up is trying to pull you up. Gravity works in the favor of the person that is down, and then it's easier to pull you down. So when you're having intention of doing right, and you happen to have somebody who's having intention of doing wrong close by you, it is better to abstain from that person and gain stability than to think you can, just get by around the person. No, it doesn't work that way. If you put one spot tomato in a basket of good tomatoes, by the time you get there in max a day, you might be surprised that half or even the whole basket is rotten. But if you put one good tomato alone for some time, it would, yes, because it is perishable, it will still start to look like it's getting spoiled over some time, but not at the same speed as when you put a rotten one beside it. So you have to decide, you have to talk about it, what's your stand, and then if you're on the same page, then let's go. Now, don't forget the fact that both of you have said it with your mouth. You have to still watch out for the actions. There are times that the person says because you already can see that that is where you are going, and in his mind he's thinking of a way to convince you, make you come around to see that, oh, it's not so bad, it's just one of those things. So you must watch out and be sure that the words and the actions, they are synced. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, don't put yourself in a difficult situation. You said you don't want to have sex before marriage, but here you are, sitting alone, both of you, lying down or even touching yourselves, and the door is closed. One thing leads to another, and it doesn't take 10 years to do sex. So ensure that, of course, there has to be physical touch to show that I am physically attracted to this person, and this is the person I say I love. But it must be done with moderacy. Be conscious of when you have to set the boundaries and be on the same page about it and hold yourselves accountable. And then you must look for things to keep yourselves busy. If we say we will not have sex and we come and sit and we're just looking at ourselves and holding hands and smiling, I'm just sitting down, I'm just saying, oh, I just love you. Oh, I just love you. Oh my. Oh my. That's all we're talking about. And we're just sitting down, we're just holding hands. It's a matter of maybe days before one thing leads to another. But if we come together and we talk about our plans, we talk about our future goals, we talk about what we intend to do in life, what we intend to make out of life, our experiences, the things that make us tick, the things that make us glad, the things that, the problems that we hear and we wish we could just clear it in seconds, or things that happen and we can't bear it. There are things that you hear and you can't bear it. You're like, how on earth can this be happening? You talk about those things. Those things are the things that really God has called you to solve. Those are the things that God has really empowered you to do something about. So when you talk about them, you will see that you're passionate talking about them, you're happy talking about them, or you're very sad and bothered or concerned talking about them. So you talk about them together, you pray together, you share God's words together, maybe even the promises that God has started to give you about your marriage. You talk about the kind of home you want to have, the kind of picture that comes to your mind when you talk about your home. So these are things that you talk about. You go out together, attend events together, talk to people who you both hold in high esteem together, learn, read books, do reviews together, read the Bible, do reviews together, learn together, watch together, things that will make you better versions of yourselves. Now, when you're busy doing all of this, you're not likely to be caught just sitting and looking into. It does not mean that once in a while you won't, really just appreciate the work of God in the life of your partner. Be like, I'm so blessed to have you. But it means that you're going to be busy doing those things, and then you're more conscious and intentional. Okay? Another thing to do to make sure that you do not fall into sexual sin before marriage is to pray about it. Bible says in the book of James, it says the devil is like a roaring lion. The devil, your adversary, is like a roaring lion, is moving about seeking whom he may devour. How does he intend to devour? To sometimes catch us in our unguarded hour. So we pray and say, Lord, help us. This is a decision we have made to not defile ourselves. We receive grace to do this, and then you hold yourselves accountable. Also, another thing you can do to make sure that you do not fall into sexual sin or sleep with each other before marriage is to know that the boundaries are to be respected. Do not think that you're a superhuman being or you're a macho. That can happen to me. It can happen to anybody. So ensure that you do not um, over you do not think too highly of yourself. Bible also says that we shouldn't think too highly of ourselves. Don't think that this cannot happen to me. It can happen to anyone. So ensure that the boundaries that are placed for you to be careful are really respected, and then you're concerned about ensuring that you keep yourselves pure and please God. Very important. Then, when you notice anything that looks like it's drawing you close, ensure that you do not keep quiet. Speak to people that you trust, pray about it, and be careful. I hope that with these things that we've looked at today, staying pure, which I am very certain that is the will of God for us, that is staying away from sex until marriage is something God is pleased with. I am sure that with these things that we shared today, grace is released for you to do this. So please really receive the grace that is released and trust God to help you while you put these things to work. I commit you to the hands of God, and I pray that God's will be done in your life and you continue to be a blessing in all areas of your life as you experience the blessings of God in the name of Jesus. Bye.